All right, welcome everybody. This is It's iBugs Life for November 30th, 2023. The topic today is chestnuts roasting on an open fire. Don't worry, I won't be singing. Before we get to all the fun, tasty stuff of the evening, we'll do a few quick announcements. We are iBug, and we do lots of training and social events and all kinds of good stuff. Going to tell you about really what's coming up in the very immediate future. So today is It's iBug's Life. We do this every fourth Thursday of the month, but this in honor or observing all the holidays and so forth. This will be serving as an event for November and December. So we will not have an It's iBug's Life in December. We will be back in January. So be looking for the topic and the date and all that good stuff. Uh, tomorrow, sorry, before that we have Friday. We'll have iBug Night at the Virtual Movies. And tomorrow we do an audio described movie. It will be called The National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, and we'll be watching that at 8 p.m. Central on this same Zoom conference call. Social time starts at 7:15. Discussion and trivia to follow. So come and join us for that. We have some new people on here, so we'd encourage you to come. It's usually a lot of fun. So please come tomorrow. Then on Saturday, we have iBug Unplugged, and that is a totally fun, non training, non tech event. It's all about getting to know one another. And the topic will be this magic moments in your life that changed the course of your life, things that were things, special events that happened. We're going to come and share that with our friends, and that will be led by Vincent Delorza. So we're really excited about that. Come and support him in that event. That will be 8 p.m. on Saturday. And all these events are on the same Zoom conference line. Then we start the new month of December. Monday will be the Buzz Call, talk about all things relating to your iPhone from 7 to 9. Tuesday we have an event on the Clubhouse platform from 5 to 6, talk about questions about your Mac. Thursday we'll go to Trekkie Talk, and Friday we'll be back for a movie. And that following Sunday we'll have iBug Cafe, talking about seeing AI and other smart applications. Okay, now we're going to go around quickly and say who you are. Before that, our website is ibugtoday.org. That's where you can read about all the events that I was just talking about. You can subscribe to our mailing list and get apprised of all the events that are coming up. Okay, now we're going to open it up. And we don't use the hand raise feature here, so just say your name and wait to be recognized. But right now, we're going to go around and say who you are and where you're from. And maybe the icebreaker, George, are you planning on doing any baking? What's the question? Well,
Um, as an icebreaker, I guess we could say, what was your favorite Christmas gift you got last year? Only name one though.
all right. Gotta keep it quick, guys. Okay. All right, here we go. All right, let's go. Who'd like to go first?
This is Pete, and I'm in
Hey, Pete.
Florida.
Welcome.
My favorite Christmas gift, thank you, was an electric blanket.
Okay,
And remember,
great.
I'm in Florida.
Okay, keep going. Thanks, Pete. Who else?
Jake from Michigan.
Welcome.
Thank you. And my favorite gift that I got last year was 2 coffee cups
Okay,
that are travel.
cool. Okay. Okay, next.
Michelle.
Dana in the greatest city in the world, Cincinnati.
What?
And my favorite gift from last year was my one front tooth.
Ha ha ha. Very cute. Okay, keep going. Who else?
Michelle from Sydney, Nova Scotia,
Welcome.
Canada.
And
Welcome. I think probably my favorite gift was a Google, which I must confess I haven't used very much. So I have to do that again.
Okay, now I get to interrogate you. Julie, get the bright lights ready to go.
Okay, got it. Here you go.
Got it. Okay. How did you hear about iBug?
A friend of mine goes on Friday nights for the movie almost every week, Elizabeth.
Oh,
So
Elizabeth. Yeah, we love Elizabeth from
yeah,
Newfoundland, right? Okay.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Very good. Well, she's a real sweetheart. We're glad she told you about us. Thank you for coming. All right. Next, keep going. You're done. You got off easy. So.
I did.
Yeah.
Julie, Battiste,
Hey, Julie. Welcome.
and one of the best gifts was a horse blanket.
A horse blanket. Oh, cool. Okay. Assuming you have a horse. Okay, keep going.
Linda
Linda.
in Humble, and my favorite gift was a charcuterie board.
Oh boy, we'll have to talk about that later.
What is that?
I didn't learn about what that was till about a month ago. So go ahead. She's got class. I don't. All right, who else?
This is Jody in New Hampshire.
Hey, Jody. Welcome.
My biggest gift was being able to spend the holiday with my daughter because I was far away for so long.
Oh, how sweet. Okay. Very good, Jody. All right, next. Anybody else?
Mary Ellen Earls
Hey, Mary Ellen, go ahead.
from Scottsdale. My favorite gift last year was a really pretty blue pullover for my sister.
Oh, okay. Very good. Who else? Thank you, Mary Ellen.
This is Dan from Southern California.
Go, Dan, and then Vincent. Go, Dan.
Okay, yeah. And I lost my front tooth. That was not my favorite gift. But I lost my front tooth, got it pulled out.
Oh, no.
Oh.
I guess that's the one that Dana got.
Maybe so.
Nice of you to share. Okay. All right. Vincent, you've been trying to come in. Go ahead.
Yes, my favorite gift was a crystal coffee mug engraved with the name of my grandchildren.
Wow. Fancy.
Oh, that's neat.
All right. Thank you, Vincent. So remember, he's the one we're going to be talking to on Saturday night. Come on Saturday. Okay, who's next? We're going around saying who you are, where you're from, and your favorite gift from last year. Who'd like to go?
Elizabeth from Newfoundland, Canada.
Hey, there she is. Welcome.
And my favorite gift was the liqueur chocolates.
Yum. Did you share any with Michelle?
No, she's too far away from me.
Oh, excuses. Oh, goodness. Okay. All right. Great. Welcome. All right. Next, anybody else?
Petra and Derek.
Hey, Petra and Derek. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
My gift was a trip to New Zealand to see my family for Christmas.
Whoa.
Oh, wow.
Nice. And she didn't take us. Okay.
Nice.
I took Derek.
Well,
lost the
yeah, you
invitation.
could have taken
Wow.
us too. Okay. Very good. Thank you. Who else? Gotta keep going. Anybody else?
This is Ned.
Hey, Ned. Welcome.
Yeah, I've been having problems unmuting myself. My favorite gift last Christmas is that my brother found some scrapbooks in going through the house that we grew up in. And so he went and he auto-described all the books, the pictures for me. So that was a wonderful gift. So it brought back memories of our growing up together.
Oh, what a nice brother. Good job. Okay. All right. Who else? Anybody else?
Albert from Chicago.
Hey, Albert. Welcome.
How's everybody?
Good. We got a favorite gift you got last year?
Last Christmas, I think I would really have to say it was the time I spent with my family.
Oh, we got a bunch of nice people on here. All right. Good job, Albert. I don't know where they come from. Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah.
All right. Well, George, you want to tell? Okay, well, I'll go. This is Sandhya, and I really don't remember. I was not very good last year, I guess. I can't remember. I probably whatever it is, I'm sure I bought it for myself. So anyway, probably some iDevice, probably. Okay, all right, George. I'm going to hand it over now. George's going to tell us his favorite gift, and then he'll take over.
Okay, everybody. This is George here in Houston, rainy Houston. I think the rain has finally stopped. It's been pretty much raining all day. Last year, because I like Sunday, I almost forgot what I may have gotten last year, but I do recall that it came from an office Christmas party where we did like I don't know what the proper name for the game is. Some people call it White Elephant. Some people call it Dirty Santa. I don't know what it is. It was one of those things where everybody brings the gifts and you get to pick and you get to steal if you like it. And someone brought in a one-person coffee maker. It's like a one cup, very small. Something that's perfect for an office, sit on the desk. And I thought that was perfect because, I'm not somebody who will say that I drink coffee a lot, but if I do, it's usually just one. And usually at home, I got this big 12 cup thing. And sometimes I waste a lot of coffee because I may drink one cup, maybe two, and then the rest I have to pour out. Or maybe warm it up the next day, then it's not nearly as strong as it was when it was fresh.
Yeah.
So the one cup one was perfect for me. And the thing is, I only got to use it for like about maybe 6 months, 5 or 6 months, because I made a cup for my daughter one time. She came over and she took the cup, put it in her car, and forgot to bring my cup back. And I cannot even find a replacement mug for this size for it. I've looked in Walmart. They don't have it. So I still have the maker. I just don't have the mug for it. And now I don't even want it back because she's had it for so long. She's telling me it fits perfect in my car. I'm like, but yeah, but I don't have a replacement. But needless to say, she won. All right. So this month it's iBucks Life. We decided to, since we are in between two major holidays, we just all got over Thanksgiving. Matter of fact, I finally finished off the last of my Thanksgiving leftover yesterday. It's just me that's live here, and I had cooked too much food. And we about 25 more days till Christmas. And so we decided that we're going to discuss our favorite things, or maybe popular things, may not necessarily be your favorite, that we like to make or bake for a holiday. Now, I did invited a few people to come and share their things, and I don't know, at least I know some of them not here. Let me see. Melissa, did Melissa chime in? I thought I saw Melissa iPad, but I didn't know if that was her or not. And I guess either they left, but that was another Melissa who has an iPad. But anyway, I invited her to come because she's in Houston. She's someone who does a lot of baking and a lot of mixing of drinks. And so I thought she'd have been perfect to come and dispose or illustrate her favorite thing that she likes to make. A few other people had some illnesses and they couldn't make it. So, but that's okay. I told Sandy and Michael that I have enough materials here, and because I was a journalism major, which means I practiced to know how to talk for a long time, I got enough stuff to cover that should fill up the time allowed. And then I'm probably also I'm going to open it up that if any of you guys are bakers or pretend chefs, and you have something that you like to make, then we will allow you to take time if you are able to illustrate, being very detailed as to how you prepare it. Because what we do here, what iBucks Life is about is I show you and we discuss tips on how to prepare stuff without vision being an obstacle. So that means we got to be very detailed because I like it to present it to where I give you enough information that I will hope you will get the courage to try these things yourself. Okay, I see two people just joined. So while I got a couple of minutes, those of you who have just joined, come off mute and say your name and where you're calling from. If you didn't have a chance to do it at the beginning.
Hi,
And
it's Janice from Maryland.
hey, Janice from Maryland, welcome. Do you
Thank
have
you.
a favorite Christmas gift you got last year that you remember? That's okay. Two of
Well,
us already had to think about it a while too.
well, last year my in-laws got COVID, so
Oh no.
instead of
Oh, that wasn't a
and one
Christmas
was in the
present.
hospital and one was,
no.
sequestered at home. And Christmas dinner was supposed to be over here, and I'd fixed all the food. And so what we did was we packed it up. We took it over to my mother-in-law at her apartment. We took it to the hospital, asked the nurses to give it to my father-in-law. We took, a bag of food over to my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, and we all had Christmas on Zoom. So maybe my Christmas gift was I didn't have to be with my in-laws.
Wow.
But we
I'm gonna
still
leave
had,
that one
I
alone.
had fixed all the food, so
Yeah,
I
George.
wasn't gonna let it go to waste. So we just distributed it around. So
I'm not even touching them with the 10-foot pole
right.
trying to get
I can only tell that to you guys. So
Okay, who else? Anyone else has come in to get a chance to introduce themselves?
This is Terry from Arlington Heights.
Hey, Terry. Do you have a Christmas present that you remember you got last year that was your favorite?
Yes, a friend of mine sent me a set of free weights.
Okay. Okay. So you get to work out all year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have some of those. They're under my bed. Never been touched since probably August.
Mm.
Terry, are you using them?
Occasionally, but lately I've been working out at my doctor's office because she has a gym there. So I've been
There you go.
using the machine weights there, but I do use them, yes.
That's okay. I'm bound to start using mine because I'm supposed to go on a cruise in a couple of months. So I want to be in good shape for all the walking that I'm going to be doing.
There you
So
go.
my workout is coming. Okay. So we know when it comes to holiday times, the oven gets a lot of use. And depends on what you're making, of course, all of your burners as well. So what I am prepared to do, I haven't done it in a while. So I'm going to revisit it. I did it probably, it was in the first few months when we started doing Is iBug's Life, where I described to everybody as to how I how I bake my turkey and all the things you can do. And trust me, I'm going to make it simple that any of you guys, if you guys are somebody who don't do much cooking, you'll be able to do it too. So we're going to discuss that. And then I have a couple other things that I'm probably going to illustrate that are like desserts. And then one of the person who I was going to discuss what they like to bake is a simple recipe. And I actually got an email. So that's probably going to be the closing thing. I'm going to read it because it's quite simple. It's something called a 1-2-3 cake. And it has only about 4 or 5 ingredients. Doesn't take long at all. And that's what I'll leave with everybody to go and try to make one of those. We actually did it once in one of my training classes. About, let's see, this is 2023. We probably did it in 2012, I think, or 2011. And the person who brought the recipe, they actually memorized it. So we just decided to okay, we did it. And it actually came out pretty good. Kind of tastes like a pound cake. So, one sec. Oh, all right. Before I get started, I noticed we got some new people join and the only reason I keep doing this, Sandy, because I want to see if any of my special guests I invited or have come in. So, just for one more minute, if anybody has just joined and you have not had an opportunity to introduce yourself, come off mute, say your name, and where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Vanessa from Georgia.
Hey, Vanessa from Georgia. Sounding like a
Mm.
quiet storm radio DJ.
I just have a cold.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Hmm.
Vanessa, we were discussing as an icebreaker, if you can remember, 'cause I know almost a year has passed by, the favorite thing you got for
Hmm.
Christmas last year as a gift.
Oh, my favorite thing was it's called the Ninja Creamer,
Heard
and
of that.
yeah, I love it. It's
Yep.
ice cream maker. So you prepare, you prepare your ice cream, and then you have to put it in the cup that it comes in. You have to freeze it for 24 hours, and then you put it in the machine, and it's so delicious. Oh my goodness.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
love it.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. All right. Anybody else besides Vanessa have come in late and did not get a chance to introduce yourself? I don't want to neglect anybody. Okay. Well, hearing crickets, meaning crickets means I don't hear any chirping, all the silence. I'm going to go ahead and get started. So, as I had started talking about before, I'm going to give everybody enough details. I'm not going to do it live here because there's not enough time in this presentation for me to do it live. Although we have had some live presentations before. Those are a lot of fun too. But unfortunately, cooking a turkey takes way longer than an hour and a half. So that's why there would not be enough time. But here's when you do decide if you're going to have a turkey. I know we just had it for Thanksgiving. Some people have it for Christmas too. I mean, it's a line in that Christmas song. A turkey and some mistletoe will help make the season bright. So some people do. Some of us do enjoy having turkey during that holiday as well. Now, and remember, if you have a comment or if you have a question or a suggestion, feel free to come off mute, say your name, and wait to be recognized, and we will definitely give you the virtual lecture. So I'm going to ask a question. If we have decided to cook a turkey and we get it, what's the first thing we need to do with that turkey? It's not a trick question. What's the first thing we must have to do with that turkey? Anybody?
This is Sonia.
Hey, Sandia.
Wash a turkey and take
Oh, awesome. Yes.
take the giblets out.
You must wash it. Definitely. Well, of course, and then depends on when you got it. You got to. Wait, who's raising a hand? We don't raise hands in here. If you got something to say, all right, there you go. No stretching. Well, you can stretch, but don't do it electronically. It's distracting because my voiceover is turned on. But anyway, yeah, you must, and depending on when you've gotten it, you also have to thaw it out. But yeah, wash that thing thoroughly. Take the giblets out as well. I even take the neck out. I do all of that. I take the giblets out. I take the neck out, and I wash it. Me myself, because I want to be sure. It may take me like 20 minutes, 20, 25 minutes. Then I'm washing. Probably 20. I've never timed myself. But if I had to guess, it is about 20 minutes that it takes to wash that turkey. And I'm washing it, I'm flipping it, I'm turning it sideways, I'm standing it upside down, I'm washing it. Bottom, sides, inside, got my hands all over this thing. This thing, it gets extremely clean. I'll do everything except put it in a washing machine or a dishwasher. Because again, I wanted to make sure it is thoroughly clean. Now, if anybody has ever touched or if you have never got opportunities to handle a raw turkey, and the perfect illustration, my mother told me this because it was about probably 13 or 14 years ago when I decided to tackle the thing of cooking my very first turkey. Had never done it before, always have eaten it, but I've never cooked it. And so, and when I decide that I'm going to try to do something for the first time, I'm calling everybody. I'm doing my research. I'm getting all the information because I just want to have that idea. Kind of like the thing that I am doing as well when and it is going to happen. This is a promise. The recording is on, so I have to own up to it. I'm going to hold one of these meetings next year, sometime in 2024, as to how to cook gumbo. Now, for those of you who are not from the South, if you don't know what that is, I'll get to that later. But I guess it's a dish that's popular in the South. Some people may call it a soup, but it's really not a soup. But it's very good. But it takes a long process as well and a lot of different ingredients. And I am going to learn that. I'm going to do it a couple of times so I can come on here and tell you guys how I did it and how it gets done. But my mother had described to me the best way to handle turkey. What you can think about is, imagine it's a big chicken. And when she said, don't be intimidated by it. That's all it is. It's just a great big old chicken. It's just bigger size, has bigger legs, bigger wings, everything is huge. And so, like, you will wash, if you're going to do a whole chicken before you started, carving it or cutting it up, you have to wash it thoroughly as well. And so that's the first thing you have to do is wash it and wash it completely. Now, after you have washed it and let the water kind of drain out, get yourself either a big platter to put it on, or you can put it in a pan that you're going to use to bake it in. If you're going to use these disposable pans, I recommend getting 2 of them. Because the turkey can have some weight. And then, of course, it all depends on what size turkey you get as well. They come in different sizes. I think the smallest one is about 10 pounds. And the biggest one that I think I have messed with may have been like 16 pounds, but I do know they are 20 pounds. And I guess it all depends on how many people you're going to feed this to, how many people it's going to be at your holiday event, or how much turkey you like to eat. And I'm bringing up a different. Say it again. Say your name.
This is Terry.
Go ahead, Terry.
Can we back up for just a sec? When you're
Sure.
washing I had trouble unmuting myself. I'm sorry. When you're washing the turkey, are you washing it in what temperature of water?
Kind of like room temperature, or I wouldn't say extremely hot water, because remember, we're washing it by hand. So at a temperature you can tolerate, and I'll say kind of like lukewarm. I don't want it cold. I don't want it hot. So I think I do like it lukewarm.
And how do you know when you've got it washed thoroughly? What is it that you're feeling for to reassure yourself that you actually have it washed thoroughly through?
Very good question, Terry, because I've never thought about that. I just do it so much. But I
I
guess
know the answers to these, but I'm asking
no,
for
that's okay.
people
No, no,
who
no, no, no.
don't.
It's a very good question, and I probably should have said that. But what I do to make sure it's good and clean, not only that I'm washing it for a long length of time and I'm flipping it over, making sure I'm getting everything, but what I'm feeling for is no more greasiness or sliminess or
Exactly.
something that just feel that I can tell is clean. That I'm not going to say it's squeak like I'm washing a dish, but it just said so there's no more greasiness or sliminess inside and out, gives me the idea that this thing is fully clean. And then, of course, I'm using both my hands, all probably 10 of my fingers, making sure I'm getting everything and making sure the water is covering everything that is coming down upon. Now, I'm not going to use dishwashing liquid. I'm not going to use Cascade or anything like that to wash it.
I hope not. And you
Just
want to be careful about contamination. Whatever you put that raw turkey on, you don't want to touch anything else to
absolutely
that same pan or board, cutting board, or whatever you're laying it on to wash it. And then after you've got it rinsed and going to whatever else you're going to do after that.
Absolutely. She's absolutely right. And remember, I said at the beginning too, I do take out the giblets. I do take out the neck because I don't use that. But I also, even before I wash it, I wash the sink. The sink that I'm going to wash this turkey in, I don't have to because the water's going to run on it. But I just like to be thorough like that. I will wash the sink and make sure it's thoroughly clean because I'm putting this raw turkey in as well. And then you're right. Whatever I'm going to put my turkey in after I'm done cleaning it, before I start prepping it, I'm going to make sure the platter, the big platter that I use to set it upon, or the pan that I'm going to bake in it, it's also thoroughly clean. So even though I may have purchased these disposable pans, I peel off the little sticker that's on the inside, and I wash those pans too. So everything gets washed. For one thing, the store that I purchased disposable pans, if I decide to use one of those, because I don't have a big enough roasting pan yet to put it in, those things are exposed. They're not wrapped, so they're exposed to everyone else touching it, anything else flying around in the air. So yes, when I bring it home, I peel off the little sticker, like the little promotion, tell you how much it costs, put it in the trash, and then I actually wash those pans as well that I'm putting it in.
Miss Jody?
Now, go ahead, Jody.
It's going to also suggest that you get some paper towels and pat it dry so that the skin will get crispy when you cook it.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. That's you definitely can do that. I think I had a sister one time told me you can put some flour on it to do that, but I didn't really like putting the flour on my turkey.
I put butter on mine. Butter and
butter is better. It's more flavorful. Tastes better too. I think she said it because some people put flour on their chicken when they're going to deep fry it so it can be crispy. But this is a turkey.
This is Pete.
Go ahead, Pete.
Just a quick question, and I don't want to get you off onto a tangent, George, but have
You
you
good.
ever brined a turkey?
What's that word?
Brine.
I'm telling them myself. That means I have never done that.
brine. It's like a seasoning or something. You rub it on. Okay, don't worry about it. I was just curious if you'd tried it.
No. Tell me about that.
I don't know much about it. My sons did it for us last week. And it's just a seasoning. You make a mixture of various seasonings, what types of flavors, and it's usually a dry seasoning. It's kind of like a dry rub that you might also do on. It's brine. B as in Baker, RIN as in Nancy, E. Brine.
Okay.
This is Sonia.
Hey, Sonia.
Yeah, following up on what Pete was saying, I never really thought about it either, but there's apparently a dry brine and a wet brine. And so the wet brine is where you put it in salt water and some other stuff. You probably have to have a really, big pot and a big refrigerator. So anyway, kind of hard to do, but so you could do it two different ways. But the idea is to kind of season the meat thoroughly. So it's like a marinade, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. You know what? Now y'all making me want to go buy a turkey again because I think I want to try that. That sounds like it. Does it give it a good flavor?
Supposed to. I think Janice had a comment, George.
I know. I heard her.
Okay.
Go ahead, Janice.
So, I've done the wet brine. I just heard about the dry brine this year, but I have a big pot, like similar to the size that you might steam crabs in.
Uh-huh.
And I put the brine seasoning in, and then you put like cold water in and ice cubes. And since I live in Maryland and it's usually cold at this time of year, I let it sit in the garage in the covered pot overnight. And that's, as cold as a refrigerator. And it makes a nice juicy turkey.
Okay. I'm going to look for that. Yeah. I'm glad I brought this up because I had never heard of that. That's why I told I told him myself when he says, "You ever heard of Brian?" I said, "Well, since I never heard of it, I just exposed. I've never done it, but I am, I'm always interested into making stuff taste better. Even though I put enough seasonings on mine that mine does come up very tasty, very flavorful. But hey, I'm always looking forward to do it even more. So I'm going to put that on the list. Even look for that. Add it to my pantry. BRINE. Okay. Anybody else? All right. Now, like, was it Terry or Jody who says, yeah, you might want to wipe off the turkey to wipe the water off of it. So it wouldn't, that helps to farm it and get a little crispy if you want that. But now, okay, here we go. When I've moved it over to the pan I'm going to cook it in or the platter, this is when I start applying my seasonings. Now, the stuff that I use a combination of several different things. I may use a little onion powder. I may use some garlic powder, of course. I use some Tony Sacheries. Not a lot, just enough. I'm making sure it's covered. Tony Sacheries, if you, those of you probably from up north Maine or from not from down south, this is a Cajun type of spice that we use a lot, especially on seafood, like on fish or on shrimps or whatever. If I even put it in my scrambled eggs, that's just me. But it's the reason I don't use a whole lot of that because Tony Sachery is like one of those things that has a combinations of a whole lot of different herbs and spices, and it is somewhat spicy. They have some that are spicier than the regular kind because it is like a Tony Sachery. Then there's also extra spicy if you want that. I would not necessarily put that on turkey though. That might be used if someone is broiling crabs or crawfish or something like that. You might want to use that if you need some extra spice or something. But just like when I wash the turkey, making sure I'm going all over, I do the same thing when I'm applying my spices. I now if I'm teaching it, usually in a teaching class when I was a vocational rehabilitation teacher and I'm teaching people how to apply spices to meat, I always tell them they can either do two things. They can either pour their spices into a plate, and if it's a small piece of meat, like let's say like chicken or a steak or something like that, then you can just rub it in a plate so that the spices are getting all over. Or to make sure that you have control on the portions coming out, I would teach people to, especially if it is their first time handling something like that, that they pour some of it in a palm of their hand and then sprinkle it over the meat that way. But those who are experienced in the kitchen, hardly no one does that. Matter of fact, even the people that I have taught, once they have made a few dishes, got under their belt, they don't even use that method anymore because what I do is I take one hand that whatever spice that I'm going to put over it and I'm shaking, I'm tilting the container lightly enough that it's not going to come dashing out. And plus, some of your spices have two openings, one for sprinkling and one for dashing. But I don't want it to just dump it because then you'll have too much. So I have it like at an angle, maybe, I don't know, 30 degrees, 40 degrees, enough that it's coming out and I'm shaking it lightly, that it is sprinkling all over. And I'm using my other hand to make sure it's going where I need it to go. Now, the one reason that I season my turkey in the pan is because that will allow all those once the turkey start having its juices to be in that pan as well, and when it's cooking, it would also give it flavor, so that when it's making its own juice, when it is cooked long enough, it's well covered. All of those spices that may have leaked on the bottom or have gotten to the bottom, and once the moisture starts to build up from the time that it is baking in the oven, that allows to add that extra flavor, kind of like making its own gravy instead of me making an extra gravy to pour on whatever meat that I'm baking, whether it's the roast or the turkey, like we're talking about now. I don't have to make a gravy because it's pretty much has made its own.
This is Terry.
Yeah, Terry.
Could you also, for your dry, I'm going to call it a dry rub, because in a sense, that's what you're doing. Could you mix your dry ingredients together in a bowl or a cup or something, and so they're all mixed, and then apply the entire mixture instead of seasoning your turkey one dry spice at a time.
You definitely can do that. As a matter of fact, if you use that method, that actually will save time.
Right.
Because the thing that I'm doing does take some time. And because I don't mind, it's a preference, it's just me. I don't mind usually when I'm cooking something like that, it's usually 3 o'clock in the morning because I already know I'm going to be doing it. And I know I want to probably take a nap early that evening, wake up, and I'll probably be up all night on my feet doing it. But it does save time because, as you mentioned, I'm applying one spice at a time and getting it all over. I may start off with the season off first, or I may start off with the onion powder. I usually do my onion powder last. I don't know why, it's just something that I do, but I'm doing one thing at a time. However, like what you just mentioned, take you like a bowl, especially if you know exactly how much. And I keep promising Sandy and Michael that one of these days I'm going to, in case someone wants to follow a recipe or be organized like I'm doing it in my head, one of these times I'm going to measure out exactly, I know how much spices I use when I'm applying something. So I can come here and say, take 1/3 cup of that, 1/4 cup of that, teaspoon of that should be enough. So if I'm going to mix these spices together, I definitely want to do that because I don't want to have too much of something. So that's a note to self to actually come up with a perfect measurement for it. But like Terry was just mentioning, you get like a bowl or a plate or whatever it is, all the spices that you're going to use, a bowl might be better instead of a plate. And mix it all together, mix it up so that way now you're only going to be applying these spices to your turkey all at once instead of using all these different containers and then saving the time of not only applying one spice at a time, but I'm one of those. I have a little obsession compulsion, OC, I think that's what they call it, where you're constantly washing your hands. So I'm washing my hands a lot. I'm also washing my containers a lot. It's just something that I do because it just feels disgusting to me to reach into a pantry and find a gritty container because I didn't put my messy hands all over it. So because I don't want that, not only am I constantly washing my hands, I'm also wiping my containers off. So it's almost like they have never been touched. Just a practice of mine. You don't have to do that. If you don't do that in your kitchen, it's fine. This is just what I do in my kitchen or wherever I'm going to be cooking at. So now that I have applied all my seasons to it on all sides, now with a turkey, because the turkey is just so big, you got to make sure you get everywhere because you want every part of that bird to have some kind of flavor to it. So that means not only do you have to season the top part of it, you have to season the sides. You got to go and season both sides of the legs. Make sure you're covering all of the wings. Flip it over so that the breast is also getting seasoned. I might even put a little chopped up greenery. My chopped up greenery that I use also, I didn't mention that, is I do have in one container. I use celery, I use green onion, I use a regular white onion and a garlic. And I take and put in, I have a food chopper, which is like a small food processor. And I just let it just process all up, make it real fine, fine, fine. And I have this one particular container that I fill it up with that I keep in the refrigerator. And so if I'm making my red beans or if I'm seasoning some type of meat and I want this greeny mix on it, I can just go in there and just take like about 3 or 4 or 5 pinches, pin it is, and strategically place it all over the surface of what I'm preparing to give it that extra flavor. But yeah, you want to make sure you get both sides. So that's why I say you have to use like a large platter or get a big pan. Now, if we do not have like a big roasting pan, something that you're going to keep for a while, this is why I indicated that if you're going to use the route of a disposable pan, get 2 of them because the turkey is heavy. It carries a lot of weight. And if you use one, that thing could bend all up. Now, usually when you purchase your turkey, it depends on what size you get. and if it's your first time or you don't do it that often, most of the time, depending on the store you get it from, they will have instructions on the package to let you know not only the weight of the turkey, but the suggested time that and suggested temperature that you should bake it for. It could be I think the very first turkey that I cooked was like a 16-pound turkey. It was a huge one, which means it was extremely big, and it had the little built-in thermometer that when a meat is that big, they will have that pop-up thermometer, which I will talk about that in a minute, in it as an indicator when your turkey is done. But they had written on there that you probably want to let this bake at 350 for 5 hours or at 325 for 5 hours. And sometimes the slower you may cook something, the moisture and the more flavor and the tender it'll be. So you don't want to just because you might be starving or people coming over, you didn't judge it right, put something at 400 or 450 because that it's not going to cook. It's not going to cook too properly. So you want to have it like at an even enough temperature that it will bake, that everything will be tender. But I alluded from it. Usually written on the package, it will tell you a suggested as to how long you should cook for. And it depends on the size of it. Remember, I tell you, they can go anywhere from 10 pounds to as much as 20 pounds. Now, the thing I was talking about, and especially if they're 14 pounds on up, only reason I said it because I just cooked a 10-pound turkey since it's just me, and I think I had only one or two people that I was expecting to come over. Those bigger ones, they have these little thermometers in it that it's one of those, you don't keep it, and it's usually stuck on one side of the turkey, and you want to have whatever size it's a little round thing about the size of a what's a good thing I can measure this with. I can't think of
Push pin.
Push pin. Yeah, push pin thing. And the head of it, sticks up, that is sticking up in the turkey. And what happens is that's a good gauge of knowing when your turkey has cooked long enough, because when it pops up, then it's either done or it's almost done. And usually to tell when it's fully done, I use a method of not only the texture, because I know I've been doing it enough that I touch it enough, I can tell when it's loose enough, I can tell when it's soft enough, that yeah, it's done. And then I may use service like Be My Eyes or Ira if I don't have somebody here with good working eyes, but in an attempt to make sure that it's a good golden brown, there's no pink it anywhere. And even if it's brown on top, just so I can be sure, I'm going to flip it over. Just make sure everything is, get them to look at it, make sure it's brown on that side as well. Now, here's another thing too, especially if you got like a big turkey. One thing that you might want to get is a baking bag. These usually they come two to a box, and they'll have written on the box as to it big enough for like a 14-pound or a 20-pound. I think most of them might be 20-pound. Even if your turkey is only 12 pounds or 13 pounds, you can still put it in that big old bag. So because once you have finished prepping, applying all of your spices to the turkey, and you're ready to put it in the oven, you're going to take this bag. It's a thin plastic bag. Put the turkey inside of it. And what you do, you open it up, shake it up till it comes all the way open. And and if you want to, you can just, if you have enough strength or enough endurance, pick it up, have the bag open, and that way you can just slide the turkey right into the bag. If you can't do that, then I would suggest, especially if your pan is big enough, open it up and just put it over the turkey like you would do a pillowcase over a pillow. Meaning you go to the bottom, making sure it's getting complete underneath the bottom, come through on the other side, and the same from top. And that way you just grab the two ends and pull it, and that way the whole turkey is submerged within this bag. And once you take the baking bag, you fold it over, tuck it underneath, and then you're ready to put it in the oven. This is way when you do that, you do not necessarily have to cover your turkey in foil because the bag is already covering it up, and it's also going to maintain all your flavors inside of this bag while it's baking. And make sure also that when you put it in the oven, put it in this pan, that thermometer that I was talking about, that it is sticking up. So that way, when you go to test it, like in 2 or 3 or 4 hours, to see has it popped up, then that way you'll be able to see it, because it'd be kind of challenging to do if you have it underneath. As a matter of fact, if you have it underneath, it's probably maybe not pop up like it should. Then it's just a good practice to leave it up. And again, follow the instructions that are written on the package, or you can even Google the information to know the weight of the turkey, how long it should cook for.
This is Pete.
Go ahead, Pete.
Quick question, George. I'm wondering if you or anyone else may be aware of there are meat thermometers, and I'm wondering if anybody's aware of a talking meat thermometer that might be used, because I know there's particular temperature that you want to get the breast up to, to help you determine whether or not it's done.
This is
To
Jody.
answer your questions, they are talking thermometers. Oh, go ahead, Jody.
Yeah, there are talking thermometers, and I even had one when you set it to poultry. It would remind you, don't forget to baste every 15 minutes.
That was
by the
my
end
next
of the
question,
cycle.
right?
That's
Yeah,
cute.
it's really cute. Don't forget to baste.
But yes, Pete, they are talking thermometers, and
Cool.
what they kind of made like I would say they kind of almost made like I've seen 2 different kinds. Some of them are the part that you're going to use to stick in your meat is like a real skinny needle, long needle that you will poke into it, and then there's a button that you press, and it will read the temperature for you. And then I've seen some of them shaped like almost like a grill lighter, to where they got a thing that where you're going to hold it. You stick it down in there. The thermometer part is always like a big long needle that you will poke in there. And that's how you can measure the temperature that way. And it does talk. They have them in English and in Spanish as well. You can go on sites like either MaxiAids, MaxiAids.com. They sell them. Independent Living Aids, independentliving.com is another website. And then, of course, there's always Amazon. Amazon have a little of everything. I think I even was trying to order some plants for somebody today, and I was looking at certain websites and how expensive those things were. And then that's when someone told me, they do sell them on Amazon. I'm like, oh man, I did not know Amazon sell plants. And sure enough, I went to Amazon and had them there, and was a much more affordable price than what I was about to spend.
This is Terry.
Go ahead, Terry. I digressed a little bit.
You can even buy a coffin on Amazon if you want, but that wasn't what I was going to say. But that's true. You can buy you can buy a coffin at Costco, for those of you who have Costco stores too. But
I was about to
anyway,
say Amazon said everything except cars, but don't give them any ideas.
Oh, they probably got
Yeah.
cars too.
Yeah, probably, though they do, I think. Anyway, what I usually do is, just because I like to know what's out there, I will use either Google or whatever search engine I'm going to use, and put in talking meat thermometers or talking food thermometer, and you'll get a lot of the different websites, including the ILA and MaxiAids and LS&S Group and Amazon, and they have, some of them are the same kind, but there's several different kinds. So even if you just do a search with your favorite search engine for talking meat thermometer, you'll come up with different things. And but if you have a specific site that you like to go to, then by all means, go for it.
And it don't cost that much either.
No,
this is
they're
Jody.
very inexpensive now.
Yeah, go ahead, Jody.
Yeah, I'd actually gotten mine on Bed Bath & Beyond's website. They don't have them in the store, but they did have them on their website. And the one I had a probe with a cable connected to it. And then there was a little square display that was maybe about 3 by 3 by half an inch, that you keep that on the countertop. And then the probe, the cable goes into the side of the oven and then the probe goes into the turkey, and it will tell you as you're cooking what the temperature is. And it will tell you, don't forget to baste.
Don't forget the base. Don't forget the base. All right. Anybody else? I thought I heard someone else calling for the floor.
It's
Okay.
Mary Ellen.
Go ahead, Mary Ellen.
Um, you may remember at the beginning of the summer, I talked about the iGrill, and the iGrill has 4 different probes. So you can use that to stick a probe in the white meat and a probe in the dark meat. And so, you'll know when the white meat's done and you'll know when the dark meat's done. And this talks and it goes through your phone.
What's it called?
An iGrill.
An iGrill. Okay. I think you talked about that before, didn't you?
I did, yes.
Sure did. Sure did. Because I said I need to get me one of those. That's on my Christmas list for me. um Hold on. Okay, here we go. I couldn't get back. My screen lost focus in place. So, now, when your turkey is done, and if it's your first time, of course, I'm one of those, and I promise you, I'm not bragging, but I can definitely tell when something's done actually, if you do it enough times, anyone can tell when something's done by the smell, by the texture, and then, of course, like we all been mentioning, the time limit. We all know how long something should cook, and you can definitely tell. I can even tell sometimes that I may have either was too late setting my timer, that I can tell when there's something dry out. Like, oh, wait a minute. There's a certain, I don't even know how to describe the smell, that I can tell when something may be a little bit overcooked. But that rarely happens. Now, let me get to the part when the turkey is done, because that was the prep. That was getting it into the oven. Set your timers. You can eat, and we all now have so many ways of setting a timer on something. We all have smart devices. We have Google people. We have A-Lady people. I'm saying A-Lady because I don't want to trigger everyone's devices who may have the ALEXA thing. We have timers on our phones. I still have manual timers that I can wind up. But we have all kind of ways of keeping track of time. And then if those of us who have like grandkids or kids, or sometimes we just use the clock. If I'm putting something in the oven at 6 o'clock, then I know it's probably gonna be done at 9 or 10. But I set timers anyway. And I even set timers because in case, depending on how long I've been on my feet, I'm probably tired, and usually the timer might help wake me up or something, It all depends on how much lack of sleep I did not get, if I happen to use something like that to help wake me up, because don't ever want to have anything scorch or burn. But now when your turkey is done, and let's just say best case scenario is brown is really completely done. Have yourself some oven mitts. Probably want to need 2 of them. Probably you will need 2 of them, 1 for each hand. And you want to grab, yeah, I would say pull it out of the oven. I've seen some people do things where they think it's still in an oven, but I don't want to do that because that could cause a mess. And then this heat is extremely hot. And then I might find myself rushing because it's getting too hot. So you might want to grab either a couple of pot holders that are real thick, or some oven mitts, some large oven mitts. Pull the rack out with one of them, and then grab the pan by each end. If you stuck it in there to where it's like long ways, that way it allow you to grab it from each end. And if you have one of those granite countertops that heat won't mess it up too much, you can sit it there, or have you a big cutting board, or on top of your stove. If you're going to put it on top of your stove, make sure that you have it clear, have enough space that you're not going to knock something over. And then you also want to make sure you keep your pan leveled as well. Once you have place your turkey in an area that is secured, it's flat, it's not rocky. Now you want to go to the part of removing the bag from the turkey. And that's relatively easy. You can either grab it to the end that's not folded, the end that like is at the bottom, and pull lightly that way. And if the turkey is too heavy because of all of the juices, then you can even tear it. I mean, because it isn't baked enough. It's not that hard to pull apart. Punch a hole in it with either a fingernail or a knife or something like that, and just pull it apart. And once you pull it apart, then you can just slide it up, and it will come from underneath the turkey itself. And all of those juices all of this moisture that was in that bag is not going to be at the bottom of your pan, which might make, again, as indicated by seasoning it in the pan, and plus all the spices the seasons that you use on the turkey, it's going to go to the bottom. That's going to be in this juice that's at the bottom of the pan, which causes moisture, which makes the turkey has made its own gravy. And you don't have to worry about trying to put like some other type of gravy on top of it so it won't be so dry. Because nobody, at least I don't want to say nobody, somebody probably does, nobody wants to eat dry meat because it's hard to chew, it's hard to swallow. And this is one way to keep things moist. I'm not going to discuss carving because I'm not the perfectionist carvingist of a turkey. I mean, what I do is I slice it up. I just take one part. Well, first of all, if my turkey is tender enough, it's going to come apart easily on its own. Your legs will practically fall off. Your wings will practically fall off. Everything's going to fall apart. So basically, all you got to do is take like a particular meat and skin and just slice it off. And allow the meat that you're slicing with, if you can use a regular carving knife, or if you're going to use an electric knife, you just let that meat fall into those juices. And that also is another way of keeping your turkey from being too dry.
This is Pete.
Go ahead, Pete.
George, I apologize for interrupting. I just wanted to stop here because you
Don't
mentioned
apologize.
taking the turkey out of the oven and taking that bag off. These are times when you need to be super, super careful because of that heat. If and I would even suggest if there's somebody in the house nearby that can help you pull that big pan, that big heavy turkey out of that oven with that rack, slide that rack out, that might have a little vision or maybe a little bit more strength in their arms and hands. That's a good thing to do. You can't be too safe with that kind of heat coming out of your oven. And also, if you're pulling that bag off, you mentioned all the good juices and the gravy that it's made. That also produces steam.
Yes.
And steam rises, and the last
Yeah.
thing you want to do is bend over a turkey and open up a plastic bag and have all that steam come out and hit you in the face. So be
Yes.
very, very careful.
And you also, I hear you, Janice, but you also want to do it slowly too. Don't just take
Right.
the bag. I may have described it like you're just going to just take it and just yank it. No. Do it slowly because you don't want it to splash either.
Right.
Splash not only because that hot steam can splash on you, which could be damaging, but then it also can make a mess. And greasy mess are hard to clean up. Go ahead, Janice.
I totally agree with Pete. After you take the turkey out of the oven and you set it on your flat surface, the turkey should actually rest for a period of time before you open the bag. And if it rests, then when you open the bag, you won't be faced with, the steam rushing up because that can burn your face. So the turkey should probably rest for at least 15, 20, 25 minutes before you attempt to carve it and open that bag.
And you're absolutely right. Both of you guys are right. I know I'm probably just going through this because I'm trying to make sure I get everything in the amount of time. But yeah, if I'm taking it out of the oven, no, by all means, I'm not cutting it right away. For one thing, it's too hot. I mean, it's been baking at 350 degrees for probably 3+ hours, 3 or 4 hours. And it's too hot to be touching. And since I'm going to be using my clean hands and not using gloves, that's going to be too touch for my fingertips. So yes, when I do pull it out, I even go this part. once my timers have gone off, or I even have checked to make sure everything is done, and I'm doing the eye test, the real eye test that everything is brown, I turn my oven off and close it. Let it cool down for a moment. Maybe I'll probably do that maybe like probably 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. I don't know. It all depends. But I am going to remove it from the oven, especially if I'm going to do the other part that I mentioned before. And you're right, I'm not going to do it right away because again, it's hot. It's very hot, and I don't want no one, even myself, burning myself. Matter of fact, if I even feel that heat, I'm like, oh, I better wait a minute. The heat will talk to you, let you know. You might want to wait a bit until I done cooled off a bit before you start slicing me up. But as I indicated before, once you pull the bag apart, you want to do that slowly because remember that there's juices, moisture in that bag, and you don't want that splashing. You also want to make sure your pan is deep enough. If your turkey is a certain size, most of your roasting pans are pretty deep anyway. They usually like about maybe 3 or 4 inches probably deep, and they usually are kind of oval shaped. Now, if you have one of those roasting pans that have a lid, I used to have one of those. I think I had inherited from my sister who had passed away 6 years ago. She had this big old thing, and I figured since her daughters wasn't going to use it, I took it and I used it for a couple of times until I think it got rusty on the bottom. I ended up throwing it away, and I haven't replaced it yet. But yeah, when you pull it out, and like I say, if it's tender enough, I'm talking about the turkey again now, it will fall apart. You might not even need too much, to cut it. The only thing that you may have to cut is when you're slicing, is when you are slicing the meat to be serving, to go on people's plates. The leg is one of the most easiest thing to slice. Wings probably not too easy. Well, some people eat a whole wing. They may take like a part of it, just eat the wing like eating a chicken wing. Breast, you're gonna slice it up. Oh, no, I forgot the part about what Terry says. Don't forget the base. So that's the turkey in a nutshell. Not in a nutshell. In the book, I know it took me almost like about an hour to describe it, but it's a long process. But it can be done. Anybody can do it. Just be careful to wash it thoroughly. Apply your seasonings everywhere. Preheat your oven. I didn't mention that too. That even helps as well. To turn your oven on already. And most of our ovens today have like digital alerts to let us know when it has reached the temperature that we want to set it at. So it's always good to preheat the oven. Don't stick it in the oven when it's cold. I mean, you can do that, but it just helps for the meat to cook better when the oven is already hot. Before I go further to discussing something else about wood bake, I think Sandia told me someone else on here who also does a lot of cooking, does a lot of baking. Do you have anything that you want to probably describe to say, or if anybody, because I don't remember who the person was, does anybody have their favorite thing they like to make or bake around holiday times before I go further? Remember, if you're going to come off mute, don't just off mute. Just say your name.
Mrs. Linda.
Go ahead, Linda.
There she
It was
is.
you. I do want to hear the name before.
Let's put her on the spot, George.
One thing that I would do if I'm using those foil pans is I would put it on top of a cookie sheet, and that would make it a lot more sturdier to take it in and out of the oven.
A cookie sheet, okay. Yeah, exactly. Those big ones. Those big ones when you're making like probably 4 dozen cookies.
Yes, if your oven's big enough for that.
If it is big enough, correct. All right, so I'm still going to open. Go ahead, Sandia. Go ahead.
I don't know. I stepped away for a minute, but my dad does it with bird in the bag. Did y'all talk about that?
We did.
Okay. All right. Sorry.
We did. Yeah. Yeah. Put it in the bag. That does help. We even talked about how to remove it from the bag.
Or eat the bag. Yeah. Okay.
Well, do they have flavorful bags?
Fiber.
Somebody like me will try it.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody got anything they like to bake or prepare or prep or
This is Jody.
go ahead, Jody.
Well, it doesn't have to do with the turkey, but I have an easy fudge recipe that I wanted to share with
Oh,
everybody. I
let's
don't know
hear
if
it.
you want me to wait.
No, no,
Okay.
no, 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 no. Let's hear it because I was
This,
gonna do dessert next anyway.
oh, this is so easy, and it impresses everybody, and you just kind of smile because it's so easy to do. So you take 1 bag of semi-sweet chocolate chips. You take 1 cup of flavored chips. You can use butterscotch or mint or whatever flavor you like, peanut butter, a cup of chips, and then 1 can of condensed milk and 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and you just melt it all in the top of a double boiler or in a saucepan on very low temperature. And then you take while it's melting, you take an 8-inch round or 9-inch round cookie pan, and you line it with wax paper. And then you take the condensed milk can that's now empty, you wash it out, and you wrap it in wax paper also so it doesn't stick. You put that in the middle of the pan. And then when your chocolate mixture is melted, you pour it into the pan around the circle, and it forms a wreath. And then you let it cool a little bit, and then you put I get the mini M&Ms, and I put those on it so it looks like little ornaments. And then you just put it in the refrigerator for a couple hours. And when you take it out, you put it on a plate. Of course, you take the can out from the middle. That was just there to form the circle. And you have a perfect Christmas wreath with ornaments on it. And everybody thinks it's so complicated, and it's just so easy to make. So I just want to share that with everybody.
And this is homemade fudge.
Homemade fudge. Yep, it's very good.
You did make it sound so easy, so I'm going to definitely replay this recording because I like fudge. Fudge is definitely rich. It's not something I eat a
Oh,
lot
it's
because
hard, and it's hard to make. Oh yeah, you don't want to eat very much at once. So just 1 bag of semi-sweet chocolate chips. 1 bag of semi-sweet chocolate chips, 1 cup of flavored chips, butterscotch, mint, or peanut butter, whatever you like. 1 can of condensed milk and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. That's all there is to it.
Wow. Okay. So I got brine on my grocery list. I got all my ingredients to make
And
my
easy
fudge. Easy fudge, because I do like fudge, but no, I can't eat too much of that. Okay. Anybody got any questions about this fudge? Okay.
This is Terry.
Go ahead.
No questions about the fudge, but it sounds like you're saying brime as in BRIM as in Mary E, and it's BRIN as in November E.
That's what I wrote down.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just wanted to make
BRINE.
Yes. Oh, good. Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Thank you. Okay. Now here's something that's real easy, and I know all of you guys can do this, even those you might be afraid of the kitchen. Hold on. Okay, I was doing a time check, 8:14. Okay. Usually for desserts. Now anyone, because I'm sure you guys probably, a lot of high school kids and grade school kids have sold the jars of cookie dough. So anyone can make cookies. I mean, because all that thing that now I don't know how to make the dough, but I know there's a way of making a dough. I know somebody who actually makes their own dough. But if you buy this purchased jar of cookie dough, all you're doing with that is taking like a teaspoon and scooping it up. We'll get a cookie sheet, of course. Get either a cookie sheet, or if you don't have a cookie sheet, have a very flat pan. No, don't do that. I was about to say get some foil paper, but no, because that might, if you don't have steady hands, then a cookie might fall off and fall on the floor. So get get something solid. I'm really what I'm explaining to you guys is there's some stuff that I've tried that I've learned from mistakes, and that's how I've gotten wise. As to what things I will say I suggest not to do. But get you like a flat pan or a cookie sheet and take the cookie dough, use like a teaspoon, scoop it up, make like a ball about the size of a big marble or what's a small ball that everybody has seen? All thing I can think of is a marble or maybe a big marble.
How about a ping pong ball?
Ping pong ball. Thank you. That'll work. That'll work. There. Yeah, about the size of a ping pong ball or a foosball or something like that. Just a ball. And you will take two of your fingers, and especially if you're making several of these balls, you want to separate the balls by the width of two fingers on the cookie sheet. And I would say only put like probably 4 on a row. You can make like 4 rows going. This would be horizontally. Put 4 on a row, or it depends on how big your cookie sheet is, maybe 5, but I would say 4 is a good one. And you want to have them spaced apart, like I said, the width of 2 fingers. Don't have them up against the edge. And you can probably make like 5 rows of this, depends on how much dough you have. And you don't want them to be too close together, because if you have them too close together, then the 2 cookies that you had too close together as they're baking may become one and misshapen. And you can also, if the dough does not have chocolate chips in it, you can buy a bag of chocolate chips and just stick those in the dough. Depends on how many chips you want in your cookie. Put like 2 or 3 or how big your balls are. And you can probably preheat your oven at 325, and those can bake for like 12 to 15 minutes. I would say set a timer for 10 minutes and just keep checking to see if they're done, because you don't want them to cook too long. If you let them cook too long, although they may be soft when you first take them out, those things will get hard. So that's cookies. That's real simple. Now, cakes. Now, you can either do a cake from a box, from like Duncan Hines, Betty Crocker, Pillsbury, or you can do a cake from scratch. We're not going to talk about doing a cake from scratch because that takes up way too much time and takes a lot of work. We want to keep this simple. But you can get like a simple, and I've done it enough that I've memorized the ingredients. And most of them pretty much all are the same. Your Duncan Hines, your Pillsbury, your Betty Crocker. Don't worry, I don't have any stock in any of these companies, so I'm just mentioning them all. If I've forgotten a particular company, I apologize. I just don't know them all. Those are the 3 that off the top of my head. But on most of your cake mix, whether it's going to be classic white, classic yellow, chocolate, banana supreme, strawberry supreme, red velvet, spice. I'm just naming the different kinds of cakes. What's another one? I think Sandia had me to teach her how to do a pineapple cake one time. I forgot. It was one of those pans that had the shape of like some kind of animal or something, or was it a swirl? I don't remember. It was some shape that she had this cake done. But anyway, I digress a bit. But all of them, I mentioned all these different types of cakes in the different companies. They all say use 3 eggs, 3 large eggs, 1/3 cup of oil, and 1 cup of water. That's all the ingredients there in the box. 3 large eggs, 1/3 cup of oil, 1 cup of water. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your 9 by 13 inch pan, if you have one of those, or if you have the disposable ones, wash the pan first. Well, let me take that back before I get to the pan. Get your mixing bowl. You don't want your mixing bowl to be too small because you're going to be doing some mixing. So get you like a nice size mixing bowl. Take the cake mix, open the box up. Usually the box is a little cardboard box that you just open up, and the cake batter mix is inside this plastic. You open up this plastic and pour the cake mix into your mixing bowl. Once you got it all out, making sure all of the batter is out, you can probably just stick that bag inside the box and put it in the trash or put it aside. Then you take your eggs, and now you want to be careful with eggs. I will recommend, if you're not comfortable or if you're not experienced at cracking eggs open carefully, crack the eggs open over a separate bowl, and where you want to tap the egg on a hard surface lightly. You don't want to smash it. You don't want the thing to crumple up in your hand, and you don't want to hit it too hard. You don't want it to, have the egg coming out of the shell. Just tap it lightly, and you will be able to hear when the egg has cracked. And you want to be cracked enough that you can pull it apart using either two fingers, or probably maybe your index and your middle finger on both hands. Depends on how long your fingers or how big your hands are. But you want to pull that egg apart slowly so that the egg will drop into either the small bowl or cup that you're going to use. And then that way, you want to be careful that none of the pieces of shells has fallen into that. Now, once you have heard your egg drop into this bowl or this small cup, take the pieces of the shells in your hand and put that either in your trash can or put that inside the empty box that your cake was in. Where you're keeping all your trash organized and together. Then you can take, if you're not afraid of it, use your fingertips, feel inside that cup or that bowl to make sure no small pieces of the shell have got into that. Once you're definitely secure that none of the pieces of shell have gotten in there, then it's okay to dump the egg into the mixing bowl where the cake mix is at. So you're going to do that 3 times. Now, if you're somebody who's very good with eggs, you can tap it like on a hard surface. And if you're good at pulling the egg apart without some shells getting in your cake mix, then do that too. But if you're not, don't do it that often. I would advise doing it not directly into the mix, because you could have that incident where you got pieces of an eggshell inside of your cake mix. Would a cooked eggshell taste like in a cake? I don't know. I haven't done it, but I don't even want to imagine what that might be like. It might be crunchy. It might be crispy. Who knows? I don't know if I want to mess up and try it just so I can testify as to what it's like or not, but no, just don't do that. So now that you have done this 3 times with your 3 large eggs, got your eggs into the mix, take your 1/3 of a cup of an oil. I tend to use vegetable oil. I don't know. It sounds healthy. I don't know if it is. Oil is oil. But usually if I'm frying something, I'm always buying Crisco vegetable oil. Just one of my favorites. But you pour this into your 1/3 of a cup slowly. And then you want to pour that into the mix. And you want to do the same thing with a cup. If you have a set of measuring cups, this is what I use a lot. I know some of us may have people who have vision house. They got like the one big measuring cups where they can look to see on the side how much liquid is measuring up. But I tend to use the set because it's easier for me. Matter of fact, because I keep them together, they're attached at the handle. And I always keep them together because the set will go from your cup is going to be your biggest, your half cup is your next size down, then your 1/3, and then your 4th is the smallest one. And that way, by me keeping all those together, then I've done it enough too that I can tell just by grabbing it the circumference as to what size cup that is. And I can easily tell I have from a 1/3 because I've messed with it a lot. And anyone can do that. If you've done it enough, you'll be able to tell as well. Go ahead. Was that Terry?
This is Terry. I have a set of Braille measuring cups for those of you who read Braille. They're called Porfix. URFECT. They have measuring cups, and then they also have measuring bowls as well. And they actually have Braille on the handles of the cups, and they're plastic. They're made so that they can sit flat on the counter, so that and they have teaspoons and different sizes of spoons as well, and they too sit flat on the counter. So if you're pouring something into a teaspoon or a quarter of a teaspoon, they've got everything from the littlest thing all the way to the big measuring cups. And I think they even have a 2 cup. I think there's a 2 cup measuring cup in my set. But they have braille on the handles, and you can buy those from some of the places we've mentioned, Maxi Aids. You might even be able to get those on Amazon now too. But they're really good. They have rubber edges on the bottom so they don't slip and slide around on your counter, and the bottoms are flat so that they will remain stable as you're pouring liquid, especially if you're pouring liquid into something. That really helps a lot. But even for dry ingredients, you don't want the cup to tip, or the measuring whatever size it is, you don't want it to tip, and they've made that non-slip and flat. So those I really like a lot.
Yeah, I think I've seen that set. There's a website called blindmicemart.com. He's just a distributor. He don't make them himself. And he may have gotten them from the company that you were talking about, where they have the braille measuring cups and the braille measuring spoons. And I think they can go from like the size of 2 cups down to 1/8 of a cup, or a tablespoon down to is it a quarter of a teaspoon? Oh, it can be real small. It is like 8 different measurements that you can keep together. So yeah, for those of us who do read braille, there are braille measuring utensils. Okay. Now once you have poured in your oil, your water, and your eggs and the cake mix, there's 2 things you can do with this when it comes to mixing. Now you're ready to mix. You can either use a big tablespoon and just manually hold the bowl in place with one hand while you're stirring and mixing with the other hand, your dominant hand. Like if you're right-handed, you're probably going to use your right hand to stir. If you're left-handed, you're probably going to use your left hand to stir. So your least dominant hand is the one that you're going to use to hold the bowl in place. If you have, what's that term? I forgot what the word is, that you can't really hold things in place too long. You can get a thing they call a dicing pad, which is like a little rubber flat mat that you can put on your counter and put your bowl on top of it. That helps hold it in place. Or they even have mixing bowls that have like the little rubber mat underneath them, which is good for keeping the bowl from sliding on a slick surface. So you make sure you can either use that to keep your bowl from sliding. So that way, as you're stirring, your bowl's not going all over the place. And you want to mix and mix and mix until it is well mixed, meaning there are no flakes from the cake mix or no thick lumps from the eggs. That is almost like a thick, should I say Cool Whip or Jello? And if your hands are clean, you can. It's okay. Just remember, I'm someone who washes my hands a lot. So because I don't have any vision at all, I am total. So I have to use my fingertips to make sure the mix is well mixed everywhere. I don't want any flakes in there. I want this thing to be well mixed together, all of the ingredients. And if you are someone who have an electric mixer, those are one with the 2 egg beaters, you can use that as well. I would make sure you don't turn on that mixer too high though, because then your bladder is going to splash everywhere. You might want to start off on like a slow speed, or if you have 5 speeds, start off on the second one or the third one, depending on this. And that way it's mixing it up as well electronically, going all over the bowl. That's like probably a quicker way of mixing it, but I do well doing it the manual way, but you can use an electric mixer to do it that way as well. Once your batter is all mixed up, now you can put it aside, and now I'm going to go to the pan. Take your pan, make sure your pan is clean, wash whatever. If you're gonna make a layer cake, this is where you have like the two round pans and you're gonna stick on top of each other. Or if you got like the big 9 by 13 rectangular pan, you can use that part. But you want to make sure it's clean. And then you want to grease the bottom of the pan and the sides with either some margarine or real butter. This helps so that the cake don't stick to the bottom of the pan when you're baking it. So you want to grease the pan and all corners, all bottom of the surface. And then you also want to take, after you've gotten your pan greased, whether it's your two round small layer pans or your rectangular pan, 9 by 13, then you want to take like probably a big pinch or a couple of pinches of flour and put that all over the bottom of the pan. Not a lot, just enough to cover the pan. This is one of those techniques that I don't know if it was written on the ingredients, the instructions, or something that I picked up from someone teaching me, that it also helps for the whatever you're baking to not stick to the bottom. Especially if you're doing like layer cakes where you need to flip it over to put one on top of the other. You don't want that getting stuck in there. So it's always important to grease your pan as well as put a little flour on the bottom of it as well so it stays slick. Or some people use Pam. No, they don't use Pam on cakes. Or do they? Anyway.
Yeah,
forget I
There
they
is
do.
a Pam for flouring cake
Okay,
pans.
okay.
Mhm.
And they're like buttery flavored as well sometimes.
Well,
They got
no, there's one that has flour so that it just falls out of the pan, but
Oh,
that
okay.
you're talking about butter, that's different, but the one
Okay.
you're talking about is flour.
Okay. So now once you've got your pan greased on the bottom and on the sides and the flour, like I had mentioned before, this is when you want to take your bowl that your mix is in, and you can use a tablespoon to scoop. Well, first, if your bowl has like a sprout where it falls like, in one particular area, make sure that it's going to go in the center of the pan. You don't want to dump it and you miss the pan. That'd be another big mess. So pour it slowly. And then after you have poured it, I would say even take your spoon or a rubber spatula to make sure you're getting all of the mix out of the bowl and going into the pan. And you can just shake it or use your finger to scoop it off with a spatula or the spoon into that. And then wash your hands again because your hands have gotten a little mess with the batter getting on it. And take one edge of your pan, use both hands, and slide your pan like in a semicircle, or even pick it up lightly and shake it, slide into a semicircle on the counter. This is so your batter will spread out evenly to all of the corners of your pan and not have one side of your pan being flatter than the other and looking like a valley when the thing is going to bake. This is to make sure it's spread even. And then you can wash your hands again, touch inside after your hands are clean and dry, then touch the batter to make sure it is even on all areas of the pan, all corners. There are no corners that doesn't have any batter in it. It's even on top. Once you have done that check, then you can place it into the oven. Of course, preheat your oven. I would say preheat your oven at 350. Set your oven for 350. And then pull the rack out, place your pan on the rack or the rail, whatever you call it, inside your oven. Ensure it's not hanging over the edge and that it's centered. And then use the oven mitt to slide it back in, close your oven, and then set your timer. Now, on the box, I think I've seen them say bake for 35 minutes. To me, these days, that's too long. I think I may have seen 30 minutes. What I do, this is just a George tip, I set a timer for like 20 minutes, maybe 22 minutes. And what I do is when the timer goes off, I pull it out. I get either a real pointy fork or a real skinny knife. And you can pull the pan out slowly and then go into like the center of the cake or different areas of the cake and poke it. to don't poke it hard. Just poke it lightly so it touches the bottom, and pull it up, and see if your fork comes up dry. If it does not come up dry, means you got some mix still left on the fork or the knife or whatever you're using. Some people use a toothpick. That means your cake probably need to bake some more. I may have to go like another maybe 3 minutes or 5 minutes. Depends on how much batter is left on that tool that you use to check to make sure it's done. Once it is done, then of course, yes, you take it out of the oven. Use an oven mitts, of course. Put it on top of the stove or the counter or a cutting board or something that's going to be flat on the surface. Close your oven door back and let it cool down for a bit. Now, there are some people who say put the cake in the freezer before you apply your frosting or your icing. Well, this is if you want to use icing. I'm one of those. I do like icing on my cake, so I'm going to explain that for a minute. But actually, what I do is I don't put it in the freezer first. I let the cake stay hot. I take my can of icing, whether it's cream frost, cream. If I'm doing let's say I'm doing a banana supreme cake. If I'm doing cream cheese, can't say the word, cream cheese frosting, I take and open it up, pull the foil seal from over the top of it. I put it in my microwave for like about 10 seconds, maybe 15 seconds, because I want that icing to get kind of almost liquidy, but not too much. I don't want it to be so liquid that you want to drink it, but just soft enough that it comes out easy. Once it is soft enough, I take a spoon and I take the can of frosting, go over the cake, and I just pour it all over the cake. Use the back heel of my spoon to spread it evenly to make sure it's going all over the edges, all over the sides, all over the middle. And this may take like 2 times. I do the first one, half of it, get one side of the cake well covered with the frosting, then go on the other side, whatever's left over. I find that to me to be the easiest way of applying frosting on a cake. I used to try my best to just take the frosting, open it up, and just apply the frosting to it, and the cake gets all beat up. And I have no idea why. I used to get mad at myself. I could not frost the cake right until someone told me that trick. That says melt the frosting a little bit and just pour it on there. Now, when I have poured it on there, then I'm going to put the cake in the freezer. And I'm going to have it in that freezer for like about maybe 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. Of course, I'm going to make space in my freezer for it so I can let it sit flat. And what that does is, not only is the icing going to get you make a tough coating, not a hard coating, but it's going to be spread evenly because that liquid frosting on there is going to get hard. And it's going to look, I professionally put that frosting on there. That's one tip I have for applying frosting to a cake, and it works. It's been working for perfection for me for at least 10 years.
This is Jody.
Go ahead, Jody.
Yeah, first I want to go back to putting the batter in the pans. What I do is I don't pour it. I get a large spoon, and then I spoon it from pan 1, and then I spoon to pan 2, back to pan 1, and then back to pan 2. And that way I have an even amount of batter in each pan. And I don't have to worry about, one having more in it than the other. And then as far as frosting goes, I'm going to let out my secret. I wash my hands really, really, really well. And then I spread the frosting with my fingers. And then that way I know it comes out even. And then I go over it with a knife so that there's no finger marks left in it, because I don't want to freak anybody out.
Hey, that's decorating it. Yeah, I've heard that technique. I think there's somebody say too they use their hands, but I don't know. This just worked well for me, and I do that. But what you're doing, like I say, I don't have the perfect, answer to all. That's just one thing that I do. That when someone told me about that, because I used to get so frustrated trying to use the spoon to put ice in the cake because I see sighted people do it all the time. They do it with no problem. I could not get that done.
Well, then it comes out uneven if you do it that way.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it was somebody say, "Oh no, you just take it and go like in circles, go like in circles." I said, "No, that circles don't do it. Who raising their hand? Don't put your hand back down and just open or unmute yourself. We don't raise
Hey
hands in
George. Hey
here.
George, it's Melissa.
Hey, Melissa, you made it. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Hi everyone. I'm sorry. I'm a little late. I caught let's say you pouring the batter into the pans. So I missed the part where you add the batter to the pans, but listening to the last person that gave you a suggestion with pouring, what I like to do since I did go to pastry school to be a pastry chef and I'm visually impaired. So what I used to do in class is weigh the contents of my mixing bowl, and from there I would know how much batter I have. Then I would evenly distribute that between two bowls. Now you do have to have a scale, a food scale, but it does come in handy. Once you do that, you have equal amounts for each pan. I do that, and I also, if you're using, I don't use cake mix, pre-made cake mixes, but if you do, just take a little bit of that cake mix and spray your pan with nonstick cooking spray, and then use the cake mix instead of flour to coat the pan, because that's going to incorporate the same flavors versus you having a white powder on top of your cake when you flip it, if you're flipping. Also, when you're frosting, it's ideal to refrigerate your cake for a good 6 to 8 hours. Once you do that, I would take George's tip on the frosting and melt it a little bit and pour it over that. But not it's not going to be hot. It's just going to be like he said, it's going to be a little thinner once you put it in the microwave and you stir it. And then you can just easily pour it onto your cake and then put it back in the fridge. I don't normally freeze cakes, but I do put them in the fridge. The only time you really want to freeze a cake is if you're doing like different types of frostings and you have layered cakes, because they have to be more firm when you're doing fondant and other stuff. But just to frost, like basic frosting, refrigerator is fine.
Okay. Um, Wait, what did you say you stick in the freezer? Or you don't stick in the freezer?
I don't put cakes in the freezer unless I'm doing like layered cakes or
Okay.
something along those lines, because it has to be more firm. But if you're just doing, like, if you're leaving a cake in a pan and you're not even flipping it out, then yeah, for sure. I mean, you can do what you want with it. Nobody's going to notice anything if it breaks or whatever, and it can still be warm when you put your frosting on there. But if you have to flip a cake, don't do it when it's warm. You have to completely cool your cake. So the best thing to do is, is for a couple of hours in the fridge.
Okay, well, I'm the amateur. I'm just do.
No, no, no. I mean, I just came on here because
Yeah.
you asked. So I'm just looking
Yeah.
at it.
No, 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 no.
I want to give tips if I can. If they help somebody, perfect, wonderful. If they don't, I'm just here to give advice. I didn't have time to come up with a recipe because I'm packing still. So I do want to listen for a little while.
That's
So,
okay. No,
all
that's
right.
fine. No, I do
Okay.
appreciate you joining us because, like, I've done both, and some have worked and some have been a disaster. I've done the layer cakes, and I've done where I just leave it in a pan because we just gonna cut out of the pan and and
Right.
scoop it up that
Right.
way. And I have done that flip where in this one I
It
get
breaks.
frustrated because it break or half of it come out or some gets
Okay.
stuck in there, and I'm like, God dog it.
So let's
And
say if your cake breaks, what you can do is you can get a clear glass bowl, like a large bowl, and you can turn that into a trifle. So what you can do if your cake breaks is not a loss. You take those pieces and you put it into the bowl with some fruit, layer some whipped topping, more fruit, or if you're doing a certain flavor, whatever you think will go with that flavor cake, you layer that. So you can have pudding, Oreo
you got a whole
cookies
nother
with a
dessert
chocolate
there.
cake.
Okay.
Correct. So it's never going to be a fail. You just have to be creative with what you have in front of you. So don't worry if your cake breaks, just turn it into a trifle.
Okay. Okay. I'm moving in your neighborhood.
All right. I know you've been wanting to for a while.
This
Every,
is scary.
and everybody, I'm sorry. This is Melissa Rainey. She's here in Houston. Yeah, she's the one who's gone to culinary school, and she's the baker. She's a pro. She had a business used to be called the Brownie Bowl, where she made everybody in Houston heavier.
Yeah.
Because her stuff is just so good. And so sometimes, she even makes dish. She don't just bake; she even cooks stuff too. Because I see her posting
Yeah.
stuff, and I will message her. Okay, how'd you do
Yeah.
that? How did that come out?
Yeah.
I'll be in
And
the
we
store buying the stuff.
yeah, and now I'm
Mm.
actually doing video content for a coffee blog. So I'm doing professional coffee drinks like for barista style drinks. So that's what I'm doing now.
Excellent.
Okay.
Yeah,
Go
it's
ahead, Terry. I
fun.
think you wanted to say something or ask something.
Yes, I wanted to add, you can also use a cake mix to bake cookies. You
Correct.
you
Yes, you
do
can.
your mix like out of the box and follow that, with your um, um, eggs and water and um, what's the other thing? The other ingredient
Oil.
from, oh, and the
Oil.
oil. Thank you. Yes, I knew I was missing something there. And instead of putting it in a 9 by 13 or whatever size pan it is, you can, once you've got it all mixed in your bowl, you can then drop those cookies onto a cookie sheet. Also, being mindful that you want them a couple of inches apart because they're going to spread out while they bake. But they make really good cookies too,
Yeah,
those cake mixes.
you actually would use less of your liquid, so you would use less eggs and less oil and less water to make the dough. But
Oh, okay.
you can definitely do that. Let me look into that and really quickly while y'all talk,
Yeah,
I'll get that
that's
information to you.
interesting because I know, well, I did not do it, but the people in the class the person who taught that aspect of baking used the same amount of ingredients. So I'd love to know what you would recommend
Yeah,
for that.
definitely. I'll definitely look into that here in just a second.
And
While
that's
y'all
if you want your cookies to be even. I like my cookies crisp. I don't like them soft. And so you
okay.
wouldn't want to use as much liquid
No.
either. Am I right about that?
As far as like if you're using um a cookie dough, you would just
Hmm.
you would have to mix your brown and white sugars. You
And
wouldn't
see, I'm
use
just the
one
opposite.
or
I
the
like
other.
it chewy.
Yeah, so it would definitely depend on how you like your cookies, but it's a trial and
Mhm.
error. I will say that. It's just testing
Okay.
your preference, but you never want to use less than what a recipe calls for unless you're modifying it.
Hmm.
Like you would do for a cake batter going to cookies, that's modification, but you're not normally going to do that with a recipe unless you're just going to completely change the structure of it. So don't add less liquid if you want crunchier or crispier cookies. What you would do is maybe add a little more butter. I would say just a little bit, like maybe a teaspoon extra of butter, and then put the cookies in for a slightly higher temperature for less amount of time. So it's just you're really just in the kitchen. You're pretty much your own master chef because you're just doing trial and error with everything until you get what you like. That's what you remember. Okay, what did I do this time to get this, this final in cookie the way
Outcome.
I wanted it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Okay.
So, Melissa, I know you into. I know you say you got the thing you're doing with coffee. Do
Mm-hmm.
you have any tips, or do you make your own eggnog, or
Eggnog,
you don't even mess with that at all?
I have not done eggnog. What I've recently done is something called coquito, which is a Puerto Rican version of eggnog. And that uses sweetened condensed milk, evaporated milk, coconut milk, and Puerto Rican rum. And it's actually really good. Um, I can leave a recipe for that for you when I take off, like tomorrow while I'm on the flight. I can just do notes and make a recipe, and then leave that with you, George, and you can post it wherever you want, if anybody would want that.
Okay, sure. I'm always interested. I don't mind
Yeah.
experimenting on me.
Yeah, right. Eggnog is a little tricky just because of it's kind of custard based, and you have to use eggs, and a lot of people are just not okay with that.
This is Pete.
Go ahead, Pete.
Did you say you have a YouTube channel or you're creating one? And if so, what's the name, the address?
Oh, for me?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's talking about you.
No, I don't have a YouTube channel. What I do have, I do content, video content for a coffee blog who has a YouTube channel, but they're actually based in the UK. So the
Are you able
coffee,
to share that address?
yeah, definitely. It's actually Coffee Holly, so it's coffee and then the word Holly, HOLLI. And then when you look that up on YouTube, 90 97 98% of the videos are my content.
Cool.
I'm kind
And
of
what's your
shocked you do
name?
not
Are
have
you
your
able
own
to share
YouTube
your
channel.
name?
Melissa Reyna.
Reyna?
Yes, REYNA.
Thank you very much, Melissa.
Uh-huh. You're welcome.
I'm shocked after those years you do not have a YouTube channel. All the stuff you be creating.
No, I actually
I mean, it's almost like I think you dream about food every night.
I do. Okay, so for the cake, the cake mix converted into cookies. So you'll just get one box of the cake mix itself, and then you're going to add about half a tablespoon of vegetable oil. So you're not going to follow the box directions. Half a tablespoon of vegetable oil and 2 large eggs. That's it. And that will have your cake mix turn into cookie dough.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. And your result is going to be a soft, fluffy cookie. So
Yeah,
just
see
be
that
mindful
I
of
like
that.
soft.
It's almost
And
going to have the consistency of crumble cookie, if you've ever had one of those. If you've had a crumble cookie from the Crumble Bakery, and they add frosting on the top, and it's going to be that same kind of consistency.
Kind of like a sugar cookie?
Almost, yeah, but even a
Consistency,
lot,
maybe.
even a lot thicker and higher.
So
It is good.
I know you probably don't mess with cookie dough too much, the ones that is already pre-made, but what is the secret? What is the amount of temperature that when you baking like with the simple cookies to where they don't get hard?
So for cookies and cakes, you want to always take them out a few minutes before they're actually done. So if you take them out of the oven and they look done, they're overdone. Because what happens is you get residual heat that still continues to bake your product once you take it out of the oven. So you're looking at take it out maybe 3-4 minutes earlier. So I did hear you talking about putting a fork or a toothpick or whatever into your cake. If it comes out clean as done, negative. It's overdone. So you want to have just a few crumbles on there. They are going to be moist, but whatever you're inserting, whether it be a toothpick, I prefer toothpicks. But if you have a fork or whatnot, just as long as you don't have wet batter. But if you have a few crumbles, take it out.
Okay, y'all hear that? As long as it's not wet, that's the key
Right.
thing.
Correct. Yep.
It's done. It don't have to be dry, like I mentioned.
Right. I mean, you can if that's what you like, but
That's what you like, exactly. No,
yeah,
we all
definitely.
like.
You can do whatever you want. I'm just here for the tips.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, listen, I thank you for dropping in. Yeah, we are at the. Anybody got any more last questions for Melissa on here? Why we got? Because we about at the end of the hour.
Yeah, because I'm gonna take off and finish.
Sandia?
Go ahead, Sandia.
Maybe you talked about this. When you take when you're baking your cake and then it's done, you take it out of the oven, do you take it out right away, or if you leave it in the cake tray, it'll get hard, right? So you should hurry up and take it out, or wait for it to cool and then dump it out, or what's the right method?
I would say you to wait for it to get warm, but more cooler than hot, if that makes sense. So to the touch, it's
Uh-huh.
going to be warm, but more on the cooler side than it is going to be the hot.
Okay.
Because if you're not really good at taking flipping cakes,
Uh-huh.
it will break, or
Yeah.
it can stick. I'm not going to say it always does, but it can. And just to avoid that, what you also want to do is take a knife, and you're not going to dig all the way into the edges, all the way to the bottom of the pan with that
Uh,
knife. You're just
uh,
going to go along the edges at the top just to make
okay.
sure it's loose.
Okay. Thank you.
This
You're
is
welcome.
Ned.
Go ahead, Ned.
Yes, one time my mother burnt a batch of cookies and they were chocolate chip and she was going to throw them away. And I took one of them before she did that. And my gosh, I liked it. And I liked the cookie burnt around the edge a little bit. So
Uh-huh.
from then on, my mother would always leave some of the cookies in a little bit longer because I like
Right.
burnt cookies.
Right, because they continue to cook when you
So,
take them out.
so is that
Definitely.
is that odd to like burnt cookies?
That is not odd to like burnt cookies.
You like what you like.
You're odd for
Exactly.
other reasons, Ned.
This is
This is
Sarah.
Jody.
Okay, I heard
Sarah.
who was besides Jody? Who's the other person?
Sarah, can you hear me?
Go ahead, Sarah, and then Jody.
I just wanted to say, yeah, I love hearing Melissa and her tips, et cetera, et cetera.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's interesting hearing from a cook. And but I think I don't know if either of you mentioned this, you or George, but putting the plate that you're gonna have your cake on, putting the plate over the pan.
Correct.
So that you can flip it.
Yes.
Yes.
Because guessing does not work.
No.
Correct. No,
It's not a
you're
good practice, I guess.
right. I do that with flan. I do that with cakes. I would definitely put whatever I'm going to use. I have cake boards, so I'll have a cake board and I'll flip it onto the cake board, but I do put it on the top, as you stated, and then flip. So it's already going to be where I need it to be.
What is a cake board?
Cake board is like a thin piece of cardboard that's got like it's foiled at the top. It's almost like when you get a professional cake, it's
Right.
a really thin piece of board that's just at the bottom of the box.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, go ahead, Jody.
Yeah, I was going to say when I want to get the cake out of the pan, I go around the edge with a knife, but then I also kind of shake the pan side to side and loosen the cake on the bottom of the pan. You can you can feel it shifting, and then I know it's not stuck and that it's going to come out in one piece before
That's true.
and I put the plate on top of the pan too.
That's an excellent tip.
Yeah, putting a plate on top of it, that's definitely a good thing to do.
Yeah, this is like the ideal. I wish I could stay longer, everyone, but this is the ideal group for me because I also have a degree in electrical engineering. So I am a techie by trade. Like that's my first love is being a techie, and then my next is being a pastry chef. So
Okay.
kind
Are
of
you
this is
visually impaired, Melissa?
Yes, I am.
This
Okay,
is Terry. You'll just have to come back.
I was about to say
definitely will.
we're gonna talk later, because I do this like I say once a month, and I'll check with your schedule, and we're definitely gonna have you back on here if you don't mind.
Sounds good. Yeah,
This is Sarah.
all about it.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Can we have a cooking with Melissa?
We're gonna call it something.
Yeah,
we're gonna call it
Yeah.
the
I'm for
professional
that.
baker. George is always like, "Can you just make something and bring it?"
I'm saying, I think when I
I'd
was
love
looking
to
to move,
taste
I don't know
test.
why. When I was searching for places to stay, I should have said, "Wait a minute, let me find out where Melissa's at." I'm just
I know,
moving
right?
that neighborhood.
That's just because George wants to eat while he's talking.
Exactly.
What's wrong with that? And your point?
I know.
So
That's
Melissa, you're
good.
the Elton Brown of baking.
Elton Brown. There you go.
Well,
Yeah,
look, everybody, we are at the end. I don't want to hold anybody up. We're supposed to stop at 9. And I want to thank everybody for timing in this week.
Thank you,
Yes,
Thank
thank
George.
you for
Melissa
having me,
for
George.
spending a little time. Yeah, we're gonna get you back.
Okay.
Thanks,
Um,
George.
Thank
we
you,
won't be
George.
meeting in December, so tell everybody happy holidays, Merry Christmas to you, and look for the topic in January, which we'll figure out what that's going to be.
Sounds good.
Merry
Happy holidays,
Christmas.
Thank
everyone.
Yes.
y'all. Take
Yep.
Happy
care.
holidays.
You
Thank
Thanks,
you.
too.
Happy
Sonia.
holiday.
Thanks,
Bye.
Sonia.
Happy
Thanks, Jules.
holidays. Take
And
care.
end
See y'all.
meeting. 5, 4,
Mhm.
3, 2, 1.